Hello and namaste everyone. My name is Abhishek Ojha, an MLS student from SCPM Nursing and Paramedical College, Gonda. Today I will be presenting my research title Study of Bacterial and Fungal Profile of Diabetic Foot Ulcer. Diabetic foot ulcer or DFU is one of the most serious complications of diabetes because of nerve damage, poor blood flow and weak immunity. These wounds often become infected and take a long time to heal. Now, in many hospitals, DFU infections are getting more complicated. We now see polymicrobial infections, meaning the wound contains multiple bacteria or fungi together. Also, drug resistance is increasing. This means many antibiotics no longer work effectively. In addition, fungal infections in DFUs are often ignored or not tested, which delays healing. So, understanding which bacteria and fungi are present and their drug sensitivity patterns is essential for treatment. Now, the aim of my study is so simple to identify the bacterial and fungal organism in diabetic foot ulcers and study their antimicrobial susceptibility. The specific objectives are to isolate and identify the fungi in DFU, to check their antibiotic and antifungal sensitivity, to correlate these findings with clinical factors like ulcer grade and diabetes duration, to find how common multi-drug resistant organisms are in DFUs. Now, this is a prospective observational study done at SCPM Super Speciality Hospital, Gonda. Patient aged 18 to 65 year with Wagner grade 1 to 4 DFU are included. After cleaning the ulcer, deep tissue samples or swabs were collected. These samples were tested using gram staining, bacterial and fungal culture, biochemical test, antibiotic susceptibility testing following CLSI guidelines. Data will be analyzed using SPSS software. Since this is in progress research, we expect findings similar to previous studies. Staphylococcus aureus, especially methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, is expected to be common. Gram negative bacteria like Pseudomonas, Klebsiella, and Proteus may be frequently found. Candida species may appear in chronic and long standing ulcers. A significant percentage may show multi-drug resistance. These results will help guide better antibiotic choices. Now, why this study is important? The study is important because DFUs are becoming harder to treat. Empirical antibiotic use often fails due to resistance. Fungal infections, if ignored, delay healing. Local microbial data helps clinicians choose the right treatment at the right time. The study also support the need for antibiotic stewardship and the routine fungal testing. Now, conclusion of my research is to conclude diabetic foot ulcers are serious problem and heavily dependent on accurate microbial organisms and their diagnosis. Identifying bacteria and fungi early can improve healing, reduce amputations, cut treatment cost, support evidence-based therapy. Our study aims to generate local data that will help clinicians manage DFUs and more effectively. I sincerely thank my guide Mr. Muhammad Akram, Assistant Professor of SCPM Nursing and Paramedical Colleges, Gonda, Faculty of Medical Laboratory Science, my some of the friend, my parent and Almighty God, Lord Shiva. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day. Namaskar.
Hello and namaskar to all. First of all, I would like to thank Vedant Education Services for providing me the opportunity to have a responsibility as a session chair on Viksit Bharat 2047 conferences. As we all know, we are having campaign that is Viksit Bharat 2047, where India is going to complete their 100 years of independence and India must have to be converted into the developing nation to the developed nation, where there must be an economic, technological growth of whole entire India. So Viksit Bharat is one of the initiatives state to achieve our aim. So I have given 2 papers to review on that day. The first paper, the title is Study of Bacterial and Fungal Profile of Diabetic Foot Ulcers, which is presented by Mr. Abhishek Ojha. Mr. Abhishek Ojha has done a wonderful work. First of all, I would like to congratulate them for selection of such a kind of topic which is applicable for our day-to-day life. Whereas you all know that in entire India there are crores of the people which is being affected with the diabetes. And diabetes foot ulcer is one of the major diseases which is occurred by the microorganism. The student have taken the sample from one of the Gonda hospitals with the varieties of different patients with different age groups, where he has taken the samples of different tissue samples by applying sampling technique by swab, where he has mentioned that he has done the morphological identification and biochemical identification, and there is a chance to have a continuous abundance of certain bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas, Klebsiella, Proteus and Candida albicans. However, whatever the research that he has been made and further research that he is going to do with the SPSS software, he has done very well, because it is one of the applicable techniques, and however it is also first step to identify the bacteria. If you go for the first of all phenetic characteristics, then you go for the biochemical characterizations. To provide a further research prospect and to provide a further wide applications of this impactful research, I would like to give them a suggestions. At the end of this all particular bacteria that you have got it after morphological identification and biochemical identification, also go for the molecular sequencing for the same, because it is one of the authorized technique to authorize our all the microbial density or microbial abundance which is there into the sample. Other thing is that go for the microbial density of a sample. It means suppose if it is a Proteus, so in all the particular patients how much amount of the Proteus that is being found, or suppose if it is a Staphylococcus, then from whatever the samples that you have taken, then how much amount of this aureus that is being found, whether it is found in continuous age group or whether it is found onto the random samples. So this kind of the microbial density that has to be checked out. Third thing, whether any environmental conditions which is affecting into the microbial growth into these foot ulcers, whether humidity, air, temperature or surrounding atmosphere that is being applicable for that or not, because that would make this research very impactful. However, Mr. Abhishek Ojha and their guide have done a very applicable thing which would be helpful for the mankind of the particular area. Namaskar.
Morning everyone. Thank you for being here today. I am Shagun Rao, Assistant Professor in the Department of Fashion Designing, Vanita Vishram Women's University, Surat. Here I am glad to present my presentation on techno-economic and life cycle assessment of bacterial pigments fraction from agro waste, a critical review under the guidance of Professor Madhu Sharan and Dr. Pinakin Gandukia. I will talk about how bacteria can be used to make natural pigments using agricultural waste and whether this process is economically affordable and environmentally safe. So, let's start. Every year, huge amount of agricultural waste like food field, crop residue and food industry waste are generated. Most of this waste is burned or dumped, which harms the environment. At the same time, synthetic dyes causes pollution and health concerns. So the question is, can we turn waste into safe and natural colorant? Some bacteria naturally produces colorful substances called pigments. These pigments can be yellow, red, purple or black. They help bacteria protect themselves from sunlight and stress. Scientists discovered that we can use these pigments for human uses. So, carotenoids gives yellow to orange color and are used in food and cosmetics. Prodiagisine gives red color and has medical values. Violicin gives purple color and shows antibacterial properties, and melanin gives brown to black color and protects from UV rays. Question is where this color can be applied. This pigment can be used in many industries. In food, they replaces harmful synthetic colors. In textiles, they offer eco-friendly dyeing options. In cosmetics, they support clean label products, and some pigments are even useful in medicines. Agro waste is cheap and easily available. It contains sugars and nutrients that bacteria need to grow. Using waste reduces disposal problems and lowers production cost. This supports the idea of circular economy. Another question is how is the pigment produced? First, agro waste is cleaned and broken down. Then bacteria are grown in tanks called fermenters. The bacteria produces pigment during growth. After that, the pigment is separated, extracted and purified. One should also consider techno-economic assessment. Techno-economic assessment checks whether the process is affordable. It studies cost of materials, energy, equipment, labor and chemicals. Right now, pigment production is still expensive at large scale. Energy uses and extraction method increases the cost. So this study is trying to figure out whether the cost of pigment production can be reduced or not. While production process, one should also consider the life cycle of assessment. Life cycle assessment checks environmental impact. It looks at carbon emissions, water use, pollution and waste. Electricity used during fermentation causes most pollution. Using renewable energy can greatly reduce environmental damage. After so many reviews, it was found out that there are major challenges what researchers are facing during the production process. Producing pigments in small labs is easy, but large-scale production is difficult. Agro waste quality changes with season and location. That is another issue what we are facing. Extraction methods can be costly and use harmful solvents. There are no fixed standards to compare different studies. There are few measures we can take to improve the process. We can improve bacteria to produce more pigments. We can use green extraction methods like supercritical carbon dioxide. Using solar or renewable energy can reduce pollution. Producing multiple products from the same waste can be reduced cost. After a critical review, I can conclude that bacterial pigments from agro waste are promising sustainable solution. They reduce waste, pollution and dependency on synthetic dyes. At present, cost and scale up are challenges. With better technology and renewable energy, this process can become commercially successful. Here are the references. Thank you so much.
Hello and namaskar to all. First of all, I would like to thank Vedant Education Services for providing me the opportunity to work as a session chair on Viksit Bharat 2047 conferences. As we all know, Viksit Bharat 2047 is one of the campaign as India is going to complete their 100 years of independence. And our aim is for the all our growth and development of our country, whether it is economic growth, whether it is technological growth, whether it is education growth. So it is one of the initiative to achieve our aim. I have reviewed 2 papers in this session. The other review paper which is being presented, and it is entitled as a Techno-Economic and Life Cycle Assessment of Bacterial Pigment Production from Agro Waste, which is being presented by Ms. Shagun Rao, Professor Dr. Madhusharan and Dr. Pinakin Dhandukia, which is affiliated with the student is being affiliated with Department of Fashion Designing, Vanita Vishram Women's University, Surat. First of all, the topic that has been selected, it is nowadays a big problem to control the pollutions. So whatever the agricultural food waste, or you can use the word that is industrial waste, that is being generated, it is being converted into the positive use. So it is one of the review which is giving idea for the conversion from waste to wealth, and it is a concept of bioremediation in terms of microbial fermentation process. Now in this review, the researcher and the reviewer have given very good idea that which are the different kind of the substrate that can be used, and that substrate that will be utilized by the microorganism, and that would be converted into the pigments, and that particular pigments are having applications in food industries, cosmetic industries, textile industries and pharmaceutical industries. However, the students have also presented the plus and minus for that particular research, and he has given a broad idea in terms of economy and applicability of that particular research. But for this broader horizon of the topic which he has selected, it is very applicable for the humankind benefits and other things, that the reviewing of identification of bacteria which is pigment producer and their condition, which is also very effective one, because there would be certain bacteria, they would be producer of pigment, but it is not like that all the bacteria is going to produce pigment at particular time. So to find out the generation time for each and every bacteria, and on which particular bacterial phase cycle and on which particular optimized conditions bacteria are producing pigment, it is also very necessary. However, it is also very difficult to convert all the agriculture waste as a substrate which is being utilized by the organism, and on which, whether it is a continuous fermentation based process, so constantly whether they are producing this pigment or not, it is also necessary. But however, there is a broad applications of carotenoids, pro-diagnosis, and then violations and melodins that has been given by the reviewers, and which gives very good justice to the topic and applicability of a research in terms of bioremediation. Thanks and namaskar.